Hi, guys. Welcome to the after show for the Suicide Prevention Punchline. This is our first episode that's Berenice. Berenice, your last name is
Achikian.
right, which means you're part Hispanic and I'm guessing part Armenian with a name like that.
You got it.
So, how did your,
Don't
how,
be impressed. I told him that before we started.
oh no, busted. So, how did your folks meet? How does an Armenian meet somebody who's Hispanic?
They were both in community college taking ESL classes.
ESL is,
Nice.
English as a second language.
oh, okay.
So they met in an ESL class. Yeah.
It's a new notebook.
Pretty funny. Huh?
It's a new notebook story.
Yeah.
The ESL version.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so I don't know how they handled the language barriers, but they did it.
Well, they did. And had a child, more than one child? Do you have brothers and sisters?
Oh, I have, so my parents are separated, and I have two half brothers with my mom, and then a half brother and half sister with my dad.
Okay. Do you guys ever see one another? Or is it
I'm closer to my mom's side.
okay?
Yeah, not that close to my dad's side anymore.
And she lives nearby,
Yeah, she does.
Southern California.
Mhm.
Okay. I can remember my first open mic. It was at the Comedy Store in La Jolla. It's a branch of the Comedy Store that
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys know this. Mitzi Shore owned the Comedy Store. She's now deceased, but she always wanted a reason to have a condo in San Diego that she could write off for taxes.
Oh,
So
nice.
Yeah, so she opened a branch of the Comedy Store on Pearl Street in La Jolla, and that's where I started my comedy career as a doorman, seating and greeting.
Ooh.
Yeah, watching the comics. And back then, the headliners, Jim Carrey was a headliner at the time, just doing impressions. Andrew Dice Clay wasn't Andrew Dice Clay. That was just a little part of his act. Um, anyway, they would send headliners down every week from the Comedy Store in L.A. so they could make a decent week's, because in L.A. doesn't pay very well, but San Diego, they get headliner money. And they got to stay at the condo at the beach, which was not a bad gig. And then they had open mics on Mondays, Sundays, and Mondays. So I did them there. I remember driving by there many times when I was married to my first wife selling insurance. I could feel the pull of the Comedy Store. So I finally went in. And I tell young comics this, or new comics, go in, watch the comics, open mic or the mic. Watch the mic 2 weeks. See how bad 75% of the people are. And that'll give you the courage to get up, do your thing. So I went in, watched the comics. I'm like, man, I'm funnier than that just walking around. So got up. I don't know if you guys had the same experience. I got up on stage, started doing my set. It was all about moving from North Carolina to California, fish out of water. About halfway through, I thought to myself, man, I am home. My second thought was, I'm going to do this for a living. I have no idea how we're going to make that happen. But I mean, I knew that night, right then and there, in the middle of that set, that I was going to do that for a living. Like I said, I had no idea how. So that was, first set was great. Second set, not so great. Next week, and I thought you had to write different 5 minutes for every week until I realized everybody's doing the same sets over and over. Matter of fact, when I went back 5, 6 years later, some of the same people were there doing some of the same jokes. But that's another story. So tell me about your first open mic, Bernice. Where were you and what was it like?
It was I kind of have two. One's like a unofficial, and then I have a official open mic.
I think Zara's got a similar story, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes. Yeah.
Do you want to just say really quick? The first unofficial one was in Portland, Oregon. I went to an open mic. I was like on a trip. I saw a flyer, comedy open mic, Kelly's Olympian. I went in. I got drunk. I'd never done comedy. I might have heckled maybe. And
Maybe.
the girl next to me was a comic, and she said, "Oh, are you on the list?" And I was like, "No, no." And then she's like, "Oh, like you should go up there." And I was like, "No, like what am I going to talk about?" Anyway, she put me on the list. I went up, and I tried to be funny, and it was like failing. And then I was like, okay, well, you know what? I really just want to respond to the comics that were up here. And then I started more like a conversation, like you over there talking about the therapy, da 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 da. You over there talking about, And then that was pretty fun. So that was like my first unofficial. I was like, oh, that was kind of nice. That was okay.
Okay.
And then the first official one was a few months after that at Royal Cup Cafe. where I would go just to watch, because I thought the people were really funny, and it was free because it was an open mic, and some of the comics there, including Zara and Ness, they were like, "Why don't you try it?" And I was like, "You know what? Okay." And that's where I like prepared a set of things that I thought could be funny, things I wanted to talk about, and yeah, that was the very first one, and it was here in Long Beach.
Zara?
Yeah, I guess I have an unofficial and an official one. Actually, I think I have two unofficial and then one was in a bar in San Francisco, and it wasn't even a comedy open mic, it was a music open mic. But I had written up some stuff during the 8-hour drive up, so I convinced the guy to let me go up and do my set. And what he said before I went up, he's like, "Okay, you can go up as long as you don't say anything racist." And I was like, "Oh, me? I will say something racist." Okay, I'd understand if you said that to a white dude, but you could say it to me too. It's all good. Yeah, equal opportunity.
Yeah, he's not being racist,
No, not a bit. Nothing about brown people. That's all I'm asking. I'm brown. That's my act. I'm sorry. So, how did it go, Zara? How did it?
It went great. It went great for me. Like I was bombing, but like I was having so much fun, I didn't realize I was bombing. And I was like, "Oh man, I think I can do this." And everyone afterwards, and you could tell that I didn't do well because everyone afterwards was like, "Oh, you're so brave." You're so brave.
Well, now, in all honesty, that's the set you sent me, isn't it? After we met in Orange County.
I think so. Yeah.
And it wasn't that bad. Especially, it was not that bad, Bernice, for first attempt. There was obviously something there. Some people go up and you watch them and you go, "Oh dear God, please don't come back." You want to tell them, "Listen, is there anything else you would like to do with your life besides this?" But no, there was something. There was something there. So I encourage Zara to. So Zara, then your first official open mic in OC in Orange County was.
Yeah. So my second unofficial time was at a Toastmasters meeting. And I killed. I murdered. I slaughtered. I did so well because everyone at Toastmasters is so nice and supportive.
That's true.
So when I actually went to my first open mic, I bombed so hard.
Like official one?
Yeah, I bombed. And then I got scared off and I was like, comedy's not for me. And then I remember 6 weeks later, I realized I hadn't talked to Frank in a while. And one thing I want to say about Frank, just as a side, is that I was psychiatrically hospitalized at one point. And on my way to the hospital, I was writing down names and phone numbers because you're not allowed to have your cell phone in the unit. And I just met Frank 2 weeks before, and for some reason I wrote down his name and I called him in the hospital. And I thought, oh my God, this guy's going crazy. I hate to use that word, but that's what I thought.
Call me from the unit.
Yeah. And then he was actually really supportive, and we started joking about the hospital. Okay, what's funny about it? So anyway, I wanted to give Frank some props for that one. And so then I texted him and I sent him the video of my first open mic, and he just sat there and he broke down the whole thing, and he wasn't nice about it. He was just very you shouldn't have done that. You didn't do that. That one wasn't the correct usage of rule of three, blah, blah, blah. And it destroyed me.
Oh.
Why?
I decided that I was going to do it again. So it worked, whatever you did.
Well, and to Zara's credit, Bernice, and I've said this to many people, other comics my age, older comics, very few younger people, for some strange reason, are willing to take advice from an older comic. I don't know why, but they don't. And I guess maybe, and I understand. I'm a comic. You work by yourself. It's not, I don't take direction well myself, but she believed what I told her about, like I said, the rule of three, and I think you should open with this and close with this and change this word around, And she didn't do everything I said, but she took it all in, selected the pieces that worked for her, the things she was comfortable with. So there were
Yeah.
suggestions. Here I had this. It was not do this. It was I would suggest. This is probably
Yeah.
better. So she picked and chose and things she was comfortable with, and I believe, Zara, that's why you've moved up quickly on the food chain in the local comedy scene, is because you took what advice you thought was appropriate and put it to use, and you know and you've done very well. So unusual for a younger comic.
Thank you.
So
Uh,
go ahead,
mhm.
Bernice.
I was just trying to kill the dead silence that was about to occur.
Yes. All right, Bernice, worst show ever.
Worst show ever? Are we talking about stand up or are we talking about like TV show?
No, stand up. Your worst set ever, and I can tell you what mine was if you want to think about it.
My worst set ever was a year ago. It was a New Year's show that I did. So I had started comedy uh November, early November of 2017.
Mm-hmm.
And I was doing pretty good at open mics, I think. Like, I was having ups and downs, but it was like getting by. And then I did a show. It was a New Year's show, like an Anchor Bar one. So we're talking about, I was like 2 months in. Oh my gosh, bombed so hard. And I didn't know how to handle the emotions on stage. I didn't know it was okay. I didn't know how to be okay with it. And man, it felt bad. But yeah, that's the worst show I think that I remember.
Was that your first bomb?
No, not at all. But I was just so excited for it because it was like New Year's. Like, yeah. I don't know. Honestly, like I was 2 months in.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah,
It was just like, uh-huh.
and New Year's shows are tough in that you're not really the star of the show. The New Year is the star of the show.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Midnight
Yeah,
is the star of the show. And I had a show one time. It was not my worst, but they gave out the noisemakers before I went on.
Oh no. Oh no.
So the entire time I was on leading up to the new year, somebody in their infinite wisdom, as my mother would say.
Nice sound effects.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And Zara, worst show ever?
I think my worst show ever is whenever I got heckled by 13 drunk Latinos. I think
gang violence at that point, I think, isn't it?
And the worst heckler was this old blind dude. I mean, this elderly blind dude. And so it's hard to go at him because it's like, oh, this is an elderly man with a disability, but he was just ruthless. He was just commenting after everything I said, just heckling me,
yeah.
And they had this. I decided to do my Latino joke, where in the end the punch word is puto.
Yeah.
And so it was around the time of that big soccer game, that World Cup, whatever it's called, World Cup. And so the whole 13 of them suddenly started yelling, "Oh, puto!" And then they did that after every single one of my punchlines after that.
Oh no.
But I was pretty impressed that they were able to recognize the punchlines, That's a big deal. Yeah.
Well, and mine was, and my lovely wife was along for the ride. People always ask, because I do cruises. I do about 12 weeks a year on the boats, just doing stand-up, not public speaking. And my first cruise for Holland America, my lovely wife came along. Reason being, it was a holiday, a Christmas cruise, and the comic they had lined up bailed out at the last minute, so they flew my wife and me first class to Lauderdale, I guess. We got on the ship, And this is the way Christmas cruises used to be. This is 10 years ago. Back in the day, Christmas cruises were a boat full of people nobody liked. And here's why. What would happen is families would get together and they would say, look, how about this year, instead of getting grandma and grandpa like knickknacks and bric-a-brac, we pool our money and we send their drunk behinds on a cruise and keep them away from the Christmas dinner table.
Yeah.
Because
Oh,
nobody
wow.
in the family liked them. So I'm on a boat with 2,500 people nobody likes. So my wife was at the show, both of them. It was so quiet for two 45-minute sets that my wife could actually hear my tongue sticking in the roof of my mouth. She said it was like watching somebody you love get beat up and there's absolutely nothing you can do about it. And I thought I was going to get fired and they're going to send us home. Because if things don't go well on a ship, next time you're at a port with an airport, you're done. Turns out that's if you offend people. I stuck to my clean material, just marched through it with a smile on my face. But every morning we'd lean out of our little bed, look and see if somebody slipped airline tickets under the door. But we got to stay the entire time. It was a great cruise, wonderful. I said to the cruise director after it came off, well, I've got another show on Thursday night. He goes, not going to happen. So, when I went to the ice cream, to the midnight buffet, and just to get some ice cream to kill the pain, and the woman behind me goes, oh, you're the comic. I almost didn't recognize you. And I said, that's the nicest thing anybody said to me all night. So those are my two worst. Yeah, it's 90 minutes of silence, crickets, nothing.
Yikes.
Oh, God. Yeah.
Hurts the soul a little bit.
Yeah, I'm on a ship. I could easily jump. So, Zara, tell us what your next show is. What's next up? Where are you going? Where are you headed?
I'm kind of blanking. I'll give you my website. I post all my shows on my website.
Okay. What's your website?
Mentallymuslim.com.
Perfect.
And I am really active on Instagram and Facebook. My handles on both of them are Mentally Muslim.
Okay.
And if you want to email me, my email is
mentallymuslim@gmail.
Yeah, at Gmail. Very good, Bernice. Yeah.
And Bernice, give us your website again, or your Instagram, I guess, is where you're on every 5 minutes.
Short.burn, BERN.memory, short burn memory.
Like short-term memory, but with a B.
Get it?
Right.
Get it? Yeah.
Got it. And my Instagram is, let's see, that's one, mental health comedian. Mental health comedian. So, all right, kids. Well, thanks for joining us for the after show. Bernice, thanks for being our inaugural guest on
Thank
both
you
the
guys
podcast
so much.
and the after show.
And Frank, go have fun playing Fortnite now.
Oh, she thinks because I got a headset on, I look like I'm going to be. I'm sorry. All right, guys. We'll be back next week with the suicide prevention punchline. We will see y'all then.
All right. Thank you.
See you guys.
Bye.